We gamers all have that one comfort game. The game that you just get to unwind and just enjoy the moment-to-moment experiences. It's a game that hits most, if not all of the markers, for you to just relax and ride the dopamine and become immersed. I'm gonna be honest, leveling in the Karanas at this level, once you were too big for the bandits, is lukewarm ass. Sure, the bandit money is still really good, and if you need platinum for spells or gear, this is the place for the low teen levels. Aside from that, I felt like leveling was taking ages. So, I took to Papa Google for some hints on where a burly leatherman could get some experience. The first site suggested killing elephants. Do not do this. Sure, there's a lot of elephants, and yes, they are pretty easy to kill, but it is mediocre experience at best, and the loot sucks. The second site I found said to kill bandits, for fuck's sake. So, I went to the Quarm Discord and asked my fellow shamans. They spoke of a place called Unrest, and that I would be able to get easy groups in the yard, or solo single pulls as long as I was careful. I was convinced. But before leaving, I wanted to take one last look at the Karanas. You know, drink in the memories I'd made here and the people that I had met so far. So I took up residence under a tree and just listened to the rain. Oh, man. I love this game. Oh, son of a bitch. You know what? Fuck this place. Alright, I know we talked about it before, but we need to take just a second here and mention the Karanas. This run is stupid. These zones are so big for no reason. Unless you're buying a teleport, which is my suggestion, be prepared to W key or auto run for the next half hour. I didn't run into any troubles along the way, although it is worth mentioning that there are critters in these zones that will curb stomp a low level character with ease. Coming out of the Karanas leads to High Pass Hold. Okay, pause. On the map, this is the entrance to High Pass Hold. See how it looks like, like a dingus? Look, it should only take a moment to zone into High Pass, right? Nope. This is the canyon of what the actual fuck. This steep bitch goes on for days. Again, for no reason. You can almost tell the zones that were built with a purpose, compared to the ones where the developer said, I know, let's make a canyon that goes on for 15 minutes. Why? Fuck you, Jerry, because it's cool. Seriously, if you can afford a teleport, do that shit, or be prepared to play on your phone while navigating this lengthy turd. High Pass Hold itself is a maze of twists and turns that is sprinkled with human guards and mountain people, I guess, and both orcs and some gnolls. It is easy to get lost in this place, but thankfully there are enough guards that it doesn't prove that much of a threat. I'm not sure how the evil races navigate Old Pan's Labyrinth, but it is more of a nuisance than an actual threat to us barbarians. Loading from the rocky slopes of High Pass leads to the fog-covered realm of Midget Ravenloft, known as Kithakor Forest. This zone sits right off of Rivervale, home to the halflings, and is a pretty safe for mid to teens level hero. The issue with Kithakor is not the zone, but me. I'm too damn curious for my own good. I like to check the huts and houses that sit off the road, and apparently I'm too stupid to use my compass, and I got turned around quite a few times, more than I'd care to admit. 4. The answer is 4. That's how many times I retraced my fucking steps because I'm a dipshit. From here, I zoned into the Common Lands, and they're like the Diet Coke of the Karanas. Not too big, but with a similar vibe. They are chock full of big-ass spiders, though, and Kodiak bears. Easy to spot and pretty easy to avoid, especially if your IQ is above your level. Speaking of IQ, I thought that Unrest was in the Common Lands, and I ran to the dungeon known as Befallen, which sits right off of the EC tunnel. I ran to the tunnel to purchase a bloodstained tunic and had every intention of binding in the tunnel and then running into the dungeon, until I checked the P99 wiki of these Common Lands and realized that Unrest is in fact not on Antonica and resides in the elven lands of Feyweird, Look, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and I like to say Fey Weird. So if you're that dude in the comments, you know the guy, Mr. Actually, it's pronounced, just do us all a favor and shut the fuck up sometimes. Anyway, now dripped out in a slightly red chain tunic, I ran into Freeport ready to take my first boat ride to the land of the elves. Okay, I never claimed to be a master navigator, and again, this is all in the spirit of honesty. It took me like 10 minutes to figure out how to get on the fucking docks and board the boat. Not figuring out the zone, mind you. No, I couldn't figure out how to get through the dockmaster's building that leads to the actual dock. It also doesn't help that my character is like 7 foot tall and struggles with doorways and building interiors. And if life is this rough for a barbarian, ogres and trolls must feel like a fat dude in a clown car at all times. Anyway, I made it on board the ship before its departure. Dude, I was so excited. My first voyage across the Ocean of Tears to the fabled lands of the Fae, a realm of stoic dwarven warriors, clever gnomes, and elven ladies. This was gonna be awesome. And I made a friend on the boat. On the boat, I met Blasting, a gnome wizard who I got to chatting with, and she informed me that wizards are somewhat disliked amongst the EverQuest community. This is because they dump their mana load pretty easily and are quick to grab aggro in groups due to how much damage they can do in just a few spells. And typically they are forced to wait for enemies to be below half health before they can engage the monster without fear of pulling aggro. So typically they spend most of their group experience sitting on their ass to regain mana. This makes them seem lazy, and only joining to end a fight that is already being won, which makes their addition to a group seem a bit pointless, when you could have a rogue or a monk deal respectable damage to the entire fight in all fights, who also won't die if the enemy sneezes in their direction. I say fuck that. Wizards, you are welcome in any group that I am in. If you need a shaman, all you need to do is ask. If I can tolerate a mage sitting on his ass while his pet does the heavy lifting, or an enchanter who I have to save every 2 minutes because his charmed critter keeps breaking loose and damn near killing him in 1 to 2 hits, then I am all for hanging out with a spellcaster that is so damn dangerous that tanks can't keep aggro off of them. Also, I may need ported back in the direction of Hallis from time to time, so you guys can do that, right? Okay, where were we? Oh yeah, the boat blasting and headed to Unrest. So the boat is like the jankiest thing in all of EQ. This thing lags across the water like a 5-year-old retarded boy throwing stones. This boat is scarier than all of the magical musical undead jackasses of Everfrost combined. The fear of this boat just glitching out and dumping me into the icy waters of the ocean is now my greatest fear in EQ. The thought of losing my corpse in the fucking ocean is not something I'm prepared to handle. Thankfully, I remained on the boat and arrived in Butcher Block without incident. As for the monsters of the Ocean of Tears, well, I saw a giant at one point and I was like, yeah, hell no. And stared at the ship deck and prayed to the tribunal that nothing noticed me for the remainder of the journey. Blasting and I had chatted for the entire boat ride, which felt like it took forever. Regardless, Blasting offered to escort me to Unrest, and I was more than happy to have a friend along for the journey. I didn't get to drink in all the sights of Butcher Block because she knew exactly where the zone line was and ran us straight there. So I don't have much to say concerning the newbie area of the dwarves. I mean, I'm sure it's nice. But our journey led to Dagnor's Cauldron. It's basically a rocky shithole with a big lake in the center, like the EQ toilet bowl with a big brown island floating along in the center of the lake. Along the edge of Dagonar's toilet seat is the entrance to Unrest. Meeting Bashkar upon arriving and being recognized was really cool. He had watched my previous videos and said they got him back into playing EQ on Quarm. He said if I ever needed a troll warrior that he was my guy, but he had to log for the night. Bashkar, I am humbled by your words, brother, and thank you. I hope your adventures are awesome. Unrest itself is chock full of undead and death beetles. The undead come in a menagerie of flavors from your basic bitch undead, all smothered in tattered clothes and reeking of AIDS. Then there are mummies, which are your standard Halloween bandage-wrapped a-holes. Apart from them, there are skeletons with their own variety of dark-boned, darker-boned, barbed, and some other shit I can't remember right now. Look, there are a lot of skeleton types in EverQuest, and they all look and quack in a similar fashion. There are also ghouls that make awful noises and pass out rabies, kind of like a cracked out sex offender. And they can cast root spells to hold you still while they fuck you into the dirt. And then there are the jackass lanterns, undead that frolic about the yard all Swan Lake style. I'm not sure why they're here, and they kind of make the place feel a little memey. To top off all of these pleasant encounters are the death beetles, little scarabs that have an aggro range of 10 fucking miles. They're social and run away once they realize that they're weaker than literally everyone else here. They're just a pain in the ass. But they can become a problem if you happen to pull multiple of these little bastards at a time, or you allow one to escape. While waiting for a group, I met Motion, an ogre shaman who looks like...
It's like if the Tiger King and the Liver King only ate Burger King and had a liver that looked like Martin Luther King got beat up by Rodney King.
I'm just kidding. I love the classic ogre models. Together, we picked smaller fights with beetles and tormented undead in the yard, and ran away almost every other fight due to either trains being pulled to the zone or being overwhelmed by death beetles. It was during one of these downtimes that we met with Magic Mando and Daji. They were a part of a group and had room for 2 shamans. Finally, a full group in Unrest. I want to start by saying that this group kicked ass. Motion is also a shaman, as I said earlier, and he prefers the role of sitting and gaining mana for heals. He likes to buff to help the group win each encounter. I'm more of a bitch, this spear isn't for decoration kind of shaman. I'm pretty sure that Rubius has damaged my brain when it comes to playing a shaman, because I like to hit things with my weapon. And I've been told that at this level, standing in melee is okay, but I will eventually be forced to root and rot things to death because it's just a more efficient way to fight as I get higher level, and that's okay. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. What is weird, but in its own way kind of cool, is that as a shaman, I can stand face to face with the enemy alongside the tank at these lower levels, and if necessary, hold my own as a tank if the party is absent one. I can use debuffs to slow enemy attacks or buffs to increase the combat efficiency of my group. I can use rots to slowly kill enemies, and finally, I can fall into the role of healer if the group needs one. Even though the shaman feels like a puzzle piece in the wrong puzzle box at times, they are really versatile when paired with a team. The only role that I absolutely fucking despise is playing a healer. This is because shaman healing at this level is ass, and no one wants to remove their armor buff so that the shaman can heal with inner fire, even though it is a far more effective way for the shaman to heal and conserve mana. I'm not saying that if you are a shaman and you love being the healer, that you're wrong. You do you, brother. I just think it's fucking boring to play keep the red bars full. I would much rather buff and dot while standing side by side with the fighters and dish out an ass whooping the old-fashioned way. It's just a playstyle preference, I suppose. Now, I was asked on stream by Propane. He's called Less Than Propane in my chat. He plays Hash in EverQuest, or Hashish, I call him Hash. But he asked me if I had any advice for a new player looking to tackle Norath as a shaman. At the time, I'm pretty sure I stuttered over my answer. Now, having some time to think about it, I would tell them to stick to it. You have not chosen an easy road for the early game. Shamans cannot solo effectively at low levels, and the team levels are tough to battle through, and more often than not, you are settling to fight much weaker enemies in a 1v1. At low levels, seek out groups or duos to battle your way through the early game. Group, and group. As a shaman, you can fill most roles in a low-level party. You are not the best at anything other than buffs. You do not fight as good as the melee classes, you can't outdamage the magic users, and you can't out-heal the clerics. You don't have a pet, and you have no way to hold aggro in a shit fight. But you can do all of these things even if it's not as good as the class designed for the role. You are a versatile class suited to fill a gap in whatever the party needs. Embrace it and do what needs to be done so that you can hear that sweet ding noise. As a shaman, I would encourage you, first off, don't give up. I know you're going to hit dry spells in your adventure. Stick with it and you will be rewarded for your efforts. Secondly, always ask yourself, are you doing everything that you can to make your group's fights easier? If the healer is struggling, step off the monster and toss a heal. If you feel overwhelmed at the mana costs of buffs, keep it simple. Strength for the fighters and so for everyone just in case things go tits up. A simple way to keep track of your buffs is just simply buff yourself first with every buff that you plan to use. That way when your buffs begin to fade, you know it's time to get some mana and rebuff the team. Shamans are the big boy races. Don't be afraid to wade into the thick of it. If your healers are doing fine and everything is going good, engage in some therapeutic ass beatery and hit something with your fucking weapon. I tried my best to adopt that very mindset while grouping in Unrest. My first group took over the gazebo area of the Unrest yard. Small Fry was our tank, a gnome warrior who has mastered the art of pulling and keeping the enemy fighting him. I'm not kidding. If you see this little guy toss out a knot or a bow, fellas, this little dude is a badass. With him as our tank, the pulls of Unrest felt like the game was on easy mode. Motion and Dodgy acted as the party healers. Dodgy healed and snared, and Motion buffed and healed alongside her. Nicodemus and Magic Mondo were both mages, and we already know how all that bullshit works. Boom, bang, and pet dingus, so damage was off the chain. Which left me, Barbarian Shaman. Should I buff? Nah, they were covered. Heals? No, we have 2. Spell damage? I mean, yeah, right. Not when you have 2 coked out sparkle fingers and their pet dinguses sending undead to Jesus while wearing a bathrobe. So I took up residence beside Small Fry, and I put my spear to work on the dead. This is my favorite playstyle as a shaman. Everything is covered, so experiment with your combat capabilities. Mix up your combat spells and see how they hold up. Help off tank and keep critters from attacking the healers. And with this absolute unit of heroes at my side, we held the gazebo with ease. During this group, I had time to take a peek at my companions. Dodgy in particular was kitted out in simple leather. I had the bearskin jerkin of Rubius in my inventory. It held a special place in my heart. Rubius was the first friend that I had made on Quarm, and I had planned to hang on to it as a keepsake and memento of the kindness of the EverQuest community. But sitting right beside me was a member of that same community who could use it, so I gave it to her free of charge. This, in my opinion, is why EverQuest is a pillar of the MMO genre. The generosity and understanding that we are all stuck in this together and that in the end we need each other to survive the many nightmarish areas of Norath. And a few platinum pieces can't compare to making a friend in a video game. In today's day and age, you are more likely to bring your friends to the game. But here on Quarm, you can still make friends in the game. And I'm not sure if modern MMO developers understand just how rare that is nowadays. Dodgy was thrilled to have the gear upgrade, and I can't deny the real-life smile it put on my face to gift the armor to her. Dodgy, I know that you will put it to good use, and when and if the time comes to pass it on, be sure to tell the person you are offering it to, whether for platinum or paying it forward, that they have just received an heirloom artifact of EverQuest, and that from this point forward, it is called the Bearskin Jerkin of Rubius. As with all things, groups come to an end, and you either rebuild your team with eager newcomers, or the group disbands and it's back to the drawing board. This is the rinse and repeat cycle of grouping in EverQuest. Now, I believe that the Legend Secrets has an experience bonus going on currently on the server, so Unrest is fucking packed full of people looking for groups. This can make it very difficult at times to find a team. What boggles my mind is how many people are the same level and looking for a group. This led me to forging new groups with all the people asking for a group in the out-of-character chat. The only downside to this tactic is that there is only so many places a group can take up residence, and invading someone else's camp is just straight up small dick energy. And if you encourage this sort of behavior, you are an asshole, and although I'm not about to pretend that I can speak for the Quarm community, you should promptly go fuck yourself and do EverQuest a favor and go play Call of Duty. Thankfully, this never occurred. My groups would always camp check an area before taking over any given spot. As a shaman, I did my best to fill whatever role was needed. When Small Fry left the first group, I took over as the puller and quasi-tank, until we got a Shadow Knight to join the group, and we went back to slaughtering the undead wholesale. This first group allowed me to achieve level 17 before I had to log off for the evening. The next day, I met Michael, a Wood Elf Ranger, and together we duoed the yard as best as we could until we met Sunny, a Gnome Rogue, and Pretty Rose, a female Troll Shadow Knight. This is the Unrest experience, friends. Find a team however you can and slowly build that group until you are strong enough to hold down a vacant spot in the Estate of Unrest. We did just that. What started as a wayward barbarian and an elven hunter eventually became a fighting force strong enough to hold the back room of Unrest. I was forced into the role of healer in this group. Thankfully, Pretty Rose is a troll and has regeneration and the ability to steal life from her enemies to help keep her in the fight. Michael is a bit of a role player. Look, this part's just weird, so I'm just going to be honest. His elf apparently has an obsession with the female troll persuasion, and the riz on this guy is about as on point as an ogre's ass hair. So it's like a 6 out of 10. Unfortunately, I was forced to leave the group because real life bullshit sometimes has to come before fun. So I left the group and bid them farewell. Sonny, I'm not sure what all went down in that shack after I left, but I hope you escaped before those two weirdos started making a fucking half-troll. During the times when a group wasn't available, I tried to do more than just sit at the entrance of Unrest and spam the out-of-character channel in search of a party. During these times when locating a group proved a challenge, I tried to find where groups were already established, such as at the gazebo, and simply buffed and healed as their party needed. Sure, this meant I wasn't getting experience, but it's a nice way to make friends, and it gives me more to do than retype that I'm looking for group every 5 minutes. I did this very thing to Sunny's group the following day, and wouldn't you know it, this effort landed me the first spot in their team as soon as one was available. Now, I know not every class has this option, but as a shaman, this is a great way to make friends and get into groups. I promise you that if you are cool to people on Project Quarm EverQuest, it will be reciprocated. I've only met one asshole in the game, and I'm not concerned with outing anyone, but they found themselves groupless very quickly once they started their bullshit. EQ is founded on community, and I can't overstate just how awesome the community of Quarm is. They will help you just because they can, but looming on the flip side of that coin, if you bring your bullshit to Quarm, prepare to have a bad time. The following day, I received a tell almost immediately as I logged into the game. Glacios, a wood elf, asked if I would be interested in joining a group that was looking to take over the throne room of Clan Crushbone and kill the Emperor of the Orcs. Fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. Before heading out though, Propane hit me up and asked if I wanted to group. Propane has like 4 or 5 characters all around the same level, but he tends to play his enchanter that I refer to as Hash. Glacios' group had room for 2, so Hash and I headed out on foot to find the entrance to the Orc clan. Okay, Tree of Trust, we circled Dipshit's Cauldron like 3 times before finding the exit back into Butcher Block. From there, we were able to navigate the zones to Crushbone without incident. Crushbone borders Greater Feyderp and is the stomping grounds of the Wood Elves of Calathon. Greater Fey is a pretty cool zone, and yes, the Wood Elves are fucking spoiled. Their city doesn't have a loading zone, their guards are within easy reach for the low-level experience, and the area is just chock full of repeatable newbie quests, from delivering the mail to turning in bone chips to high elven clerics and collecting orc bells and shoulder pads for dwarves and Butcher Block for easy armor. But Crushbone is a whole different zone of trains and aggro. The orcs are all social, all aggressive, and all run away at low health. So controlling a camp in this green-skinned cesspool can be a pain in the ass. The orcs come in a crayon-box variety of flavors, kind of like the skeletons, only they're blue-green and they look like Shane Gillis on steroids. Oh! Hash and I met up with the party at the outer wall to the Crushbone stronghold. Another group was holding down the walls, so we didn't have to deal with most of the guards outside the castle. Our group pushed into the main hall and took up residence on the banquet table. And this room is a bitch to hold down. The aggro of the orcs is pretty big, and without measures, it's easy to get overwhelmed. I'm going to be honest, this place sucks ass compared to Unrest. It's a whole lot of hassle for not as good of experience. But we did manage to kill Emperor Crush on more than one occasion, so there's that. Okay, I need to pause here and talk about friendship. You know the one. When you talk to people and you like find common ground and you enjoy their company and you like it so much that you look forward to seeing them again. Yeah, that's the one. Well, I've made quite a few friends on Quarm, and I would like to take this moment to tell them thank you. Well, two players in particular. I want to start with Hash, my brother in arms. Hash and I have grouped by the time that I'm writing this, we've grouped multiple times. He is always down to go on whatever stupid idea I have questing or leveling. He plays his enchanter more than his other characters, and I've become accustomed to seeing his name in my party formation. I also love watching whatever monster that he has decided to charm break loose and beat his ass. I like turn into Stifler every time he manages to charm a named enemy.
Do it. Don't fuck around. Just relax and let it go. I'm sick of waiting.
Ash, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for joining me on this adventure that is Quarm. Secondly, I need to speak with Tevin. He's known as Cad Dad Dave in my chat, and if Hash has been my partner on the field, Tevin has been my friend and mentor through Tells. Tevin taught me how to create macros and separate my chat windows so that combat wasn't flooding my conversations, and has shown me multiple quests and items that I should be looking for as my journey continues in EverQuest as a shaman. Tevin has offered not only advice, but will sometimes appear where I'm currently grinding for the next level and offer items and platinum for new spells and things his necromancer won't use or need. Even going so far as joining a Discord call to explain to my dumbass how to set up spell macros. Tevin, thank you for all the much needed help, brother. Why am I bringing this up now? Well, because Tevin appeared in Crushbone and did just this very thing. Offered me some gear upgrades and 300 platinum for new spells. Because, like I said before, the tribal economy is just straight bullshit. Our group managed to spank Emperor Crush a few more times, but we were also spending a lot of time running orc trains to the zone line from being overwhelmed. And at one point, Glacios, our healer, managed to fall out of a tower fucking window and was forced to heal from outside during a big pull. I didn't have this recorded because I was too busy. I was winning. Anyway, the windows are slippery, guys. Be careful in fucking Crushbone. Elven agility, my ass. Regardless, I had seen enough of Clan Crushbone. I decided it was time to return to Unrest. Once I was back in Unrest, I managed to snag a group in the back room. Here you drag monsters from the adjacent hallways. Well, you pull basically anything that's not camped by main room, and you drag it to this little alcove for your group to beat the shit out of. So it's like classic EverQuest at its finest, if you will. Anyway, I had been on comms with Tevin for a few days at this point, and he asked if I was interested in joining a guild, which I was. I just wasn't sure how to go about it, and he said his guild, Former Glory, was a pretty chill group of people, and that he'd put in a good word for me. Well, it just so happened that Talamild, the guild leader, had seen my videos and reached out. He asked me if I would like to join the Former Glory community. His sales pitch was on point. This man could sell firewood in hell. We share similar views on community and building a really fun playgroup for classic EverQuest on Quarm, and I agreed to join. He appeared a few moments later and invited me to the guild. Can everyone in this game teleport except me? How the fuck does everyone have this world memorized? I get lost in Quanos every single time I try to go to the bank. Fucking nerds. Former Glory has been a massive source of information for me as a noob and is always willing to answer questions or help someone on a quest, and they raid. Not your hardcore asshole 50 DKP minus a-holes who try to dominate the raiding space. Tevin was right. They are a casual guild of badasses that are willing to help just because they can, and I couldn't be happier with my decision in joining their ranks. Thank you for having me, guys. The back room landed me level 19, and that meant new spells. It was time to return to Hallis. I didn't buy a teleport. Yeah, I know I was complaining about the length of the journey from Hallis to Feyweird, but I felt that it is again that barbarian rite of passage that I felt sitting outside the frozen highway at level 1. Every step in EverQuest is a battle of attrition. And I don't know, there's something special about the journey home after being gone for so long to see where your adventure began. And I needed to make a pit stop because I needed to check on something that had been bothering me since episode 1. I needed to check out Rivervale and see for myself if it was in fact a better starting city than Hallis. Spoiler alert, it's not. Hallis is way cooler than your little under the hill shithole. Now you have barbarian balls all up in your fishing pond. Take that, you smug little shits. How's the view, little buddy? Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Look. With new spells comes the gradual power creep in EverQuest. I bought my level 19 spells, took revenge on a blue-skinned asshole who caused me my first death in episode 1. Boom! Asshole. And turned my sights back to Unrest. The experience was still really good, and I was looking forward to grouping up and making more friends. And this is where I am currently in the game. As with my other episodes, feel free to add me as a friend. Send me a tell at your leisure because I'd love to hang out with you in Norath. Also, thank you guys so much for the continued support and all the positive feedback. You guys are the best, and I will see you guys in episode 4. Take care, friends.
I hope you have fun. Share, like, subscribe, comment down below.